Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, titled Am I the Arsehole Here for telling my adult son I need a little privacy. I'm an older, retired, divorced man. My kids are all adults. 2 years ago, I allowed my son, now 25, to move back in with me in my 2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot apartment. His mental health has been slowly going downhill, I believe. He's been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, but refuses to get any kind of treatment for it. He now has no job, few friends, and spends most of his time bed rotting in his room. He only leaves to occasionally go to movies, comic book stores, or his mother's house for dinner. I don't charge him rent, and I actually give him spending money every month, mostly so he's able to get out of the apartment and do something once in a while. I've not been on a date for 6 years. Several weeks ago, a woman I dated in the past reached out to me. We reconnected. We've been talking for weeks, wanting to get together, but we are both busy people. She lives almost 2 hours away, and so it has been very difficult for us to actually go on a date. This Saturday, however, she's coming to my place after work. We may go out to a bar or a restaurant, or we may just decide to stay home. She'll most likely be spending the night and may be here all weekend. I told my son about this date a week and a half ago when I made it. I was hoping he would volunteer to get out of the apartment for the night. He didn't. I hinted to him that it might be awkward for him to be here while I'm on a date. His answer was that he would just stay in his room the whole time she's here. I even considered getting him a hotel room to stay in for the night, as my friend is really excited about coming back to my apartment and would rather be here than in a hotel. But a hotel room on the weekend at short notice was going to be super expensive. I just couldn't do it. The situation has me stressed beyond measure. Finally today I sat him down and told him that I need him to let me have the apartment Saturday night, that he needs to spend the night at his mother's or a friend's or wherever he can. It turned into as close to an argument as we ever get. I repeated my observation about how awkward it would be for him to be here. He replied that when he lived on his own with roommates, they all had guests who spent the night in their rooms while everyone else went about their business. I told him that was a very different dynamic than a small apartment shared by a father and son. He finally agreed that he would find somewhere to go, but he is extremely angry now and feels that I'm being unfair expecting him to leave for a night. Am I the arsehole here for insisting that he leaves? The first commenter said to OP he needs to be in therapy, on meds, in school, at work, or some combination of the aforementioned. You're doing him a disservice currently. Not the arsehole for wanting to get freaky without your kid listening in though. Bella says you're not the arsehole for wanting privacy, but your son is like this because you allow him to be. Why are you giving a 25-year-old pocket money? Another commenter says you need to stop enabling your son by giving him money. Tell him he has 30 days to get a job or get out. He will never seek the mental health treatment he needs as long as daddy is taking care of him. You're doing him a huge disservice by allowing him to stay and live off you while doing nothing. Slight Ad says, ableist geek redditors in the comments. Christ. So firstly, not the arsehole. You're making a real effort to accommodate your son, and that's admirable. I wouldn't beat around the bush next time because honestly, he'll probably need a fair bit of time to collect himself for a night away from the nest without issues currently. Regardless, it's your life too, you deserve some fun. Secondly, under no circumstances should you be listening to this disrespectful, ignorant bootstraps narrative these comments are peddling. Your son is currently disabled. Maybe with time and treatment that will get better, but even getting treatment is hard for him right now. If you want to see him improve, it's going to take work on your part, adult or not. We're social creatures for a reason, and that's because severe illness or injury isn't something people get through on their own. It's not your responsibility, I know. You're already wonderful for keeping him alive through this. With further effort, there's a chance to get to a place where it'd be okay without you. But I'll tell you this now. I've seen it too many times. If you corner him now, tell him to either shape up or get out, he'll probably just take the fast and painless way out instead. Homelessness is a death sentence for him, and pushed into a position where he needs success or he will die. And I assure you, he feels like the least capable of success person alive, then he'll choose to at least not suffer. I know this is hard to hear, and that you're going through a hard time, but I just want you to be aware of the true meaning of the nuclear option these people are selling you. I can see you care about your son a lot, and I don't want you to get tricked into losing him. Opie says, just read this, thank you. That's a good perspective. So it was 18 days after this that OP did come in with an update and says 17 days ago I posted about the trouble I was having getting my 24-year-old son out of my apartment for one night so that I could have a woman spend the night. I got a lot of good advice, too much to reply to everyone individually. There was a consensus was that I needed to give him an ultimatum that he needed a job or school and mental health treatment if he was going to be allowed to continue to live with me. I gave it to him. Since then his attitude has changed almost 180. For the first time since he graduated 6 years ago, is enrolled in college. It is just community college, getting some of his basics he will need for whatever, but it's a start. I've stopped giving him money. Amazingly, he is just fine. I think the majority of the money I gave him in the past, he just ended up using for entertainment or buying tchotchkes. He has an appointment with a psychiatrist who is going to recommend a therapist to him and possibly put him on medication. All in all, I think this is one time when Reddit really helped improve the situation. As for the date itself, the weirdest thing happened. The woman who was supposed to come over has diagnosed lupus. Where we live has recently been severely affected by wildfire smoke. Turns out lupus sufferers can be severely affected by heavy smoke. So instead of having her over to my apartment for the weekend, I spent several hours sitting beside her hospital bed, an hour away from my place, as she was treated. She fully recovered, but we have as yet not rescheduled for a visit to my place. Thanks to everyone who commented, including those who labeled me an arsehole. You were all correct in your own way. Thank you. After the first part of the post, I thought, well, my thinking anyway, and I know it's very easy for me to say behind a microphone as always, but I always kind of felt like there has to be some kind of middle ground there, because if you was reading the comments, it just felt like there was only two options, either let him live exactly as he was forever or throw him out immediately, and to me it just felt like neither of those seemed particularly helpful, because depression can absolutely leave some people unable to function, and while refusing treatment is frustrating, and I know we say on the channel a lot that if they refuse treatment, what do you do kind of thing, but when this is your son and you're chucking him out, come on. But simply making them homeless isn't a treatment plan either, is it? It could just make things much, much worse. But I felt like what OP did was much more balanced in some ways. Didn't kick him out, but also stopped enabling certain parts that weren't helping, the spending money, and was setting expectations around actually getting help. And I was just relieved to see that things seemed to be moving in the right direction for both of them, which was nice to see for me anyway. But maybe, as always, you got a different opinion on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from the relationship advice subreddit and says, my 25 female stepmom, 44 female, has blocked me from seeing anything involving my dad, 59 male, and says she will unblock me when she feels ready. I feel shut out. My dad and stepmom have been married for several years. My brother and I used to be invited to holidays and other family events fairly often. At the time, my brother was a police officer and I was a corrections officer, so our schedule sometimes made it difficult or impossible to attend. We did not intentionally avoid the family, but we understandably could not make it to every event. Apparently, our inability to attend everything hurt my stepmom much more than either of us realized. Eventually, she stopped inviting us altogether. A little over a year ago, I started talking to my brother about how disconnected I felt. I kept seeing Facebook posts of my dad, my stepmom and her children celebrating holidays and attending family events together, while my brother and I were rarely invited or involved. My brother confronted my stepmom about it directly. The confrontation became a much larger conflict than I ever expected. According to my stepmom, it caused so much hurt and tension that she and my dad discussed divorce. Afterwards, she changed her Facebook privacy settings so my brother and I could no longer see posts involving her family, including posts and photos involving our own dad. I only fully confirmed this a few days ago. I logged into an old Facebook account that was still connected with my dad and saw several posts my stepmom had tagged him in. None of them appeared on my regular account. I asked her directly whether she had blocked me from certain posts, and she confirmed that she had. She explained that the situation last year had been extremely painful for her, and that changing the privacy settings was her way of protecting her peace, protecting her marriage, and preventing future family conflicts. She said the decision was not intended to hurt me or push me away. I responded as respectfully as I could. I explained that I understood why the original conflict hurt her, and that I was not angry or jealous about her spending time with my dad and her children. I also told her that I understand we all have separate schedules and lives, and that I do not expect to be involved in every family activity. What has been difficult is feeling completely disconnected from my dad and that side of the family. Even when I cannot attend something, seeing an occasional picture of my dad or seeing everyone together helps me feel like I'm still connected to them in some small way. I also told her that it has now been over a year, that I've reflected on what happened and I believe I've grown from it. I apologized previously and made it clear that I do not want to return to the conflict we had before. I simply hoped she might eventually feel comfortable allowing me to see those posts again. She responded kindly, but said that the situation nearly cost her marriage and that she still has her guard up. She said rebuilding trust and feeling emotionally safe will take time. She also said she wants to be able to post whenever she wants about herself, my dad and her children without worrying about anyone reacting negatively. She said that when she feels ready, she will change the privacy settings. I understand she was hurt, and I'm not trying to tell her how quickly she should recover. At the same time, there is no indication of when she might feel ready. It could be months, years, or possibly never. The social media issue also made me think more seriously about my relationship with my dad outside of Facebook. Whenever I ask to spend time with him, he usually has to confirm with my stepmom that it's okay first. The last time I spent time alone with him was more than 6 months ago when we went to lunch. During the lunch, my stepmom called him repeatedly, sometimes only a few minutes apart, which made it difficult for us to have a genuine conversation. In fact, I called my dad today to see if we could schedule a time for the two of us to get lunch or dinner together, and he told me I had to make sure it was okay with my stepmom first. I have not felt like I've been able to maintain a close, independent relationship with my dad for a long time. I feel as though access to him depends on whether my stepmom is comfortable with it. I do not want to create more conflict in their marriage, and I'm not asking him to choose between his wife and his children. I just want to be able to have a relationship with my dad that is not constantly filtered through someone else. My dad is turning 60 this year. I know that is not extremely old, but it has made me think about how limited our time with our parents really is. I want to spend time with him, talk to him, and continue making memories while we still can. Instead, I feel like more and more time is passing while I wait for my stepmom to decide that she feels comfortable with me again. This has been seriously affecting my mental health. I feel rejected, excluded, and distanced from my dad. At the same time, I recognize that my stepmom has her own feelings and believes she is protecting herself in her marriage. I feel that this has gone beyond protecting her peace and has become a way of shutting me out of my dad's life. How can I address this with my dad without making him feel like he has to choose sides? Edit. I understand why many of you are saying my dad is responsible for maintaining a relationship with me, and I agree. However, I'm surprised that many have dismissed the possibility that there may be a controlling dynamic going on within his marriage. The last time I had lunch with my dad, which I mentioned in my initial post below, my stepmom called him repeatedly, and we could barely have a genuine conversation without her interrupting. At one point, I even told him he didn't have to answer her calls, and that it could wait. But he told me that if he didn't answer her calls, it would cause a huge fight or argument between them. As previous others have stated, if the roles were reversed and this was a mother who said that she needed her husband's permission to have a meal alone with her daughter, while he repeatedly called her throughout and said if she ignored his calls, it would create an argument, I think many would recognize that as a potentially controlling behavior. I believe my dad is trying to avoid conflict, is afraid of ruining his marriage, is unable to stand up to his wife, or is just simply worried about the consequences of upsetting her. On the issue of OP cannot communicate privately with their father, saying that's the problem. We hardly have any opportunity to speak with our dad directly. He has access to his phone and reads every conversation we have with him. We can't get time alone with him to have these conversations. I know my dad is just trying to be neutral in this situation, or probably doesn't even know how to handle it. OP's view of the family dynamic says, or rather my stepmom has created an environment in which my dad doesn't even feel safe or like he is able to prioritize us without potentially causing offense to his wife or damaging the relationship. In our state, men rarely, if ever, come out of a divorce with anything. OP then clarifies they previously had a good relationship with their stepmother. OP says, those are insane assumptions. I've previously had no issues with my stepmom and I've appreciated how happy she seemed to have made my dad. In fact, my brother and I used to be incredibly close with our stepmom, to the point where we both called and visited often. It wasn't until she began no longer involving us that the dynamic changed. Where did I once state my goal was to separate my dad and my stepmom? My only goal for us is to get on, but it is incredibly difficult to do so when we are no longer included in family events or holidays. OP is an example of why they believe the father is in a controlling relationship. I know he genuinely cares about us and having a relationship with us. However, I'm under the assumption that his wife is making him choose between us or her, or threatening divorce. The last time my dad and I got lunch together, his wife was calling him, and I wish I was joking, every 2 minutes. I told him he doesn't need to answer her and that it can wait, and he explained that if he didn't answer, it would cause a huge fight between them. If the roles were reversed as other commenters have stated, and this was my mother instead of my dad, most would agree that this is controlling and an abusive relationship. A commenter says to OP, unfortunately you have to face the fact that your father allows this. OP says, I understand that he has some responsibility for allowing it, and I'm not trying to excuse him altogether. I genuinely don't know whether he fully realizes what is happening because we rarely get the opportunity to speak to him privately about any of it. The last time the issue came up, it was presented to him in a way that my brother and me seemed entirely at fault, while our feelings and perspectives seemed to get lost. I don't know exactly what she says to him behind closed doors, but it often feels like the situation is framed around her hurt and her need for peace, without much acknowledgement of how her decisions affect us or our relationship with our dad. That is why I want the chance to speak with him directly, rather than assuming he knows the entire story and simply does not care. I think that's an extreme assumption. Unlikely Bake says, why are you talking with her and not your dad? OP responds saying, because I can't get together with my dad privately to have this discussion. She always has an excuse that they have something important going on that day that they both need to be present for. I can't often call or text my dad to discuss it either because she goes through his phone and I never know if she's in the room or not during a phone call. Commenter says, why are you going through all this with a new wife and not speaking directly to your father? OP says, I urge you to read previous comments asking the same thing. My stepmother goes through his phone and therefore nothing I text my dad is private. I cannot get together with my dad privately because my stepmom always has an excuse that there is something else going on that they both need to be present or available for. She's attached to him at the hip. The last time I got lunch with my dad to have an important conversation with him, she was calling him every 2 minutes. I even told my dad he could talk to her later, and he said if he didn't answer it, it would cause a huge fight between them. OP in the same post gives a small update and says, my dad called me back today and said we can get lunch or dinner this Thursday. Funny enough, I heard my stepmom in the background saying, but we have this thing going on Thursday, which I said that they usually do that thing in the morning, so dinner should work just fine, to which my dad agreed. I'm happy I'll finally be able to spend quality time with my dad and address the concerns I've had. Thanks to the helpful comments regarding the situation. OP comes in 3 days later and says, I did have dinner with my dad tonight, which I'm so thankful for. I could tell he was so happy to spend time with me. The first thing he told me when I picked him up was how he had a hard time sleeping last night and had high blood pressure because he was so anxious about how his wife, my stepmom, would react to us having dinner together privately. He shared with me that she argued about feeling left out. Mind you, they do everything together, go everywhere together, etc. She tried really hard to get him to cancel, and knowing it might upset her, he went anyways. She claimed my dad only cares about my feelings and that I was trying to start things up again like last year. My dad said that she also told him this, which made my mouth drop to the floor in anger. Who's going to be there when you're sick or on your deathbed? Not your kids, me. Who on earth says that? My stepmom clearly doesn't understand the love I have for my dad, and I'm so offended by that. He said himself he feels like she's put him in a position where he feels like he has to choose between her or his kids, my brother and I, and that only her kids seems to matter. He also admitted to noticing that she seemed to use her feelings and emotions as a way to try and manipulate him. We talked so much involving this, and I can't remember everything, but he did also confirm that while they would never argue about anything, the only time an argument comes up is when it involves us, his kids. I think this dinner really opened my eyes and affirmed the suspicions I had, and hopefully his as well. He was already very anxious, so I did not show him the post and comments because I didn't want to make things worse. For those of you who claim my dad was the bad guy here, I hope this update might make you see things differently. Thank you. A commenter says to OP, my dad was in a very similar relationship and I told him the following. If you ever need to leave or if things get really bad between you two, just call me and tell me to come get you. No questions asked. I wanted him to know that I was a safe place. No judgment, no lectures, no I told you so, just someone who would show up. He lived about 4 hours away at the time. Towards the end of his life, her behavior became so much worse, especially when it came to taking care of him. The sad part was that he didn't require much help. He was incredibly independent for as long as he possibly could be, yet she acted as though every small request was the biggest inconvenience in the world. She was like every evil Disney stepmother rolled into one. From what you've described, your stepmom sounds very similar. OP responded saying the crazy thing is, she has him convinced that she loves us and cares about us like her own children, and has told him she wishes she was our real mum. But that contradicts everything that has happened or is happening. Something else I have not shared previously is that I have another brother who is no longer involved in the family from some crazy stuff that supposedly happened between my stepmom and him. And the one brother I've mentioned in my post is at a point where he doesn't care and doesn't want to be involved in the family drama, but was pushed away by my stepmom. I'm the only child my dad has left who is still there, trying and caring. The bond my dad and I have is very strong, and I believe now at this point he would divorce her in a heartbeat if she forced that decision of me or your daughter onto him. Commodore says, "You haven't said, but don't either of them work? Is there not a chance to get him outside the house on an errand? I know you said she's stuck to him and they do everything together, but where does the money to live come from?" And Opie says they co-own a business. But now I'm going to turn this one straight to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How do you think it's going to go? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, some cheeky so-and-so on our own subreddit r/Mark Narrations called Darkfire82 suggested a little tree lore story for us, who said it might be a good little ending story. So we're going to dive straight into it. It's from Wonton Don Ton from the Tree Lore subreddit, who says, Tree Lore, Tree Lore. They didn't say that. They said, "What do I need to do to save my tree? I need any and all advice everybody can offer to try and save my tree." Little backstory. I'm turning 33 years old this year, but way back when I was in elementary school, I was given this tree as a tiny sapling on Earth Day and rode the school bus home with it. My parents planted it in our backyard, and we've maintained it, kept it healthy, and watched it grow all these years. It also stands as a memorial for my dog who passed away a few years ago. Now, the dilemma. The city has made a proposed plan to put in a sidewalk that runs between my parents' backyard and the street in the city easement. This is understandable, and it's their land to decide what they want to do with. However, they have proposed that in order to have room to work, they will have to cut my tree down, even though my tree is literally on our property within our property boundaries. The fence is on their property boundary line, not city property or on city easement. My tree, along with other bushes and shrubs of ours and many other neighbors' trees that are within their property boundaries too, are all proposed to be removed for this project for the sole purpose of needing room to work. I really want to fight hard to save my tree. Am I SOL? What can I do? Who or what organizations can I call? I'm already planning on attending the meetings for this proposed project, but don't know how to save my tree. Help. OP added a picture of the tree with himself stood next to it, with the tree being roughly 3 times her size, towering above her. I'm just explaining for the podcast users here. In the very corner of their lawn, and with a chain link fence going sort of round the corner next to it. And people were just saying, talk to them, talk to the government or whoever it is, the local government, and explain the story behind the tree, because chopping down an Earth Day tree for convenience might not be a good look. It's wild that they can just point to a tree in your yard and say, we're cutting that down because we need to. Obviously, there's some kind of laws behind it that allow them to do it, but still wild in itself, isn't it? But roughly 8.5 months later, OP comes back into the post and says, "Some of you may remember my post from back in the fall of last year. I was seeking advice on how best to go about saving a tree I planted as a child in my parents' backyard from being cut down by my city because they claimed they needed room to work to add a sidewalk in the city easement." This subreddit's response was overwhelming. I cannot thank you all enough for the helpfulness, support, and incredible advice. One of you even used your expertise to draft an amazing letter we're able to give to the city planners. I know many of you wanted an update, so I'm here to give a very happy one. After a lot of perseverance, letter writing, attending meetings, speaking with city officials, plans to take the story to news stations and purchase banners for the fence line to get people talking, we recently learned we got the official plans for the sidewalk changed. The sidewalk will be on the other side of the street. Those particular neighbors actually wanted it on their side, and my parents' backyard and my tree will remain untouched. Thank you all so much, and cheers to another 30 years of being able to enjoy the little sapling I brought home on the school bus. When OP first talked about being on the school bus, sat with a little sapling on their lap while going home, it was just such a sweet image to have it years later towering in their yard and a memorial to their dog at the same time. It's just such a beautiful thing. And I'm so pleased that nothing happened to that tree and things did work out in the end. I was left confuddled though. The other side wanted the sidewalk. Why wasn't it put over the other side in the first place if they were all asking for it? Why was it for the side where you have to take down several trees and bushes and stuff like that? That slapped my forehead. But once again, thank you Darkfire82 for sharing that on our subreddit as well. Really is appreciated. But now I'm going to turn this all to you guys. What do you guys make of today's collection of stories? Your love, your support, your time, it always means the world. So thank you so much for being here. And I mean that honestly. It's absolutely incredible. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.